Hey everybody, it's Benny One, and I'm back at you with another ranking video, everybody, and I am done rewatching and reviewing the current modern era mummy movies, everybody. That's right. I have reviewed all 5 of them. I included The Scorpion King in this because it is a spin-off movie of The Mummy Returns that came out a year later. So yes, if you want to go back and watch those reviews, you are more than welcome to, because they are more in-depth and more of a longer talking session about said movies, whereas this is going to be very brief and quick and going over in a ranking video, because that's what they are. And just remember, guys, this is just my opinions about how I feel about these movies, how I enjoyed them, how I watched them, all that kind of stuff. We all have different opinions on this kind of stuff. Opinions are like assholes. We all have one, and there's nothing wrong with that, everybody. Nothing wrong with it. We can disagree about movies and talk about them. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. So, remember, put them down in the comment section. I want to talk to you guys about your rankings. So, we have 5 mummy movies, everybody, and we're going to kick this off right off at number 5, and that is The Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, the 3rd Mummy movie, everybody. So, this movie, to me, is the worst one in the franchise. It is, not by a lot, to tell you the truth. Not by a lot, because number 5 and 4, I was debating a little bit, but I enjoyed the number 4 movie just a wee bit more. So the 3rd Mummy movie, you know, it takes place 20 years later, which I think is one of the issues with the movie for me. Because Brendan Fraser came back, Evie was back, but she was recast, unfortunately, because they decided to make this movie 7 years later. I don't know why. If they really wanted to keep it going, they should have made it maybe 3-4 years at tops later, after The Mummy Returns. And this movie just felt different. It didn't feel like it was directed by a different director. One of our other main characters were recast, unfortunately, and Evie seemed like a completely different character in this movie, unfortunately. And it's nothing against the actress that played her, that got cast with her. Her and Brendan Fraser do not really have the same on-screen chemistry together that him and Rachel Weisz had. It didn't work. I couldn't buy into it at all. And I don't like that the movie takes place 20 years later, and because, for one thing, Rick and Evie, it's not believable that they're old enough to be Alex's parents 20 years later. They literally, because the movie was shot 7 years after the second one, so they don't even look like they're 10 years older from the second movie. So, and it's supposed to be 20 years later. I don't quite understand that stuff. So, but I can appreciate, I guess, a little bit what they were trying to do, though, and that they had this movie take place in a different country with their background and their history and their mythology and all this kind of stuff. I really thought it was cool concept, real cool concept, but the story was just very blah and clunky. And yeah, this is easily the worst mummy movie for me, everybody. That was number 5. Number 4 is going to be the newest mummy movie, the 2017 The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise, everybody. And you know what? If they just would have made a mummy movie, I think this could have turned out to be something pretty cool. I do think it's entertaining. I think the first 20 minutes of the movie are actually pretty cool, because it's a retelling of the original Mummy movie from 1999, and we have a female mummy, which she's cool, but the movie's not scary really at all. They just went for the more action-y type stuff. And Tom Cruise feels I guess he feels kind of out of place in this movie for me, but it's Tom Cruise, he does cool action scenes. But the biggest glaring thing for me in this is that they were trying to use this movie to build this dark universe with all the Universal monsters, Dracula, the creature from the Black Lagoon, the mummy, the werewolf. They were trying to build this universe because everybody's building a universe, and you gotta have a connected universe now if you're gonna have a movie franchise or whatever. and it didn't work. It totally affected the movie. I think it affected the story because you could tell that they were like forcing this dark universe stuff in this Mummy movie, unfortunately, and it didn't pan out very well. And of course, as we all can see now, there is no dark universe. So that was number 4, everybody. And number 3 is gonna be The Mummy Returns, everybody. That's right, the second Mummy movie. And you know what? The movie had I think it was entertaining for sure. And they brought everybody back from the first movie. All of our characters were back. And then we get the Scorpion King, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, everybody. It was his first movie that he was ever in. And he was in the very beginning in the prologue. And then we literally don't see him until the very end of the movie. Like literally the last 10 minutes. And he's this god-awful looking CGI monstrosity, for God's sakes. It is literally some of the worst CGI in a movie that I still have ever seen to date. Whew! Even with him doing that people's eyebrow. Jesus Christ. So yeah, the Scorpion King. But, and then they bring the mummy back, of course. And the problem is they kind of have these competing ideas where they want to do this Scorpion King thing, but they also want to bring the mummy back, and they want him to do the whole raise an ox on a moon, and that actually happens in this movie, and it was just competing ideas. The action's there still, the humor is still there, but you have these two ideas and stuff, and it messes with the story, and then you have all these other plots, and they weren't really flushed out and explained upon. We just kind of got them, and it was just a little too much in one movie. And I feel like they should have just picked one of those main things and went with it. I feel like maybe they should have focused on the Scorpion King thing a little more. I'm not really sure. And they reused a lot of stuff that happened in the first movie, which, come on, that's shame, shame, shame for a sequel. Like, shame, shame. So that was number 3, everybody, is The Mummy Returns. And number 2 is going to be The Scorpion King. That's right. The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's first star movie that he starred in the main role as the main character. It was his first starring role in Hollywood, a year after his first appearance in a movie in The Mummy Returns, everybody. And I enjoy this movie for what it is, because this movie knows that it is a B action movie. That's what this movie is. It is a quirky B action movie with a wrestler as its main star, and it's an origin story telling how his character became the Scorpion King, how Matthias became the Scorpion King. And I like it. It's got action. The movie literally is like 90 minutes long. It has a great pace for how long the movie is and the story that it's trying to tell. And I also think it's kind of weird, I guess, some negative stuff about the movie is that I feel like Matthias is a completely different character compared to the Scorpion King that we got in the second Mummy movie. They're like opposite characters. It's very strange because it's like they take what was built upon in The Mummy Returns and the mythology of this character, and they just kind of were like, woo, we're just going to throw all that shit out and we're going to recreate him. But it's a pretty fun, little entertaining B action movie based off of the Mummy franchise. I mean, I just really think it is. So that was number 2. And number 1 is The Mummy. The original one, the 1999 Mummy. This movie it's fun. It's entertaining. It's not a perfect movie. Trust me, none of these movies are. But it's just a fun movie that takes the classic mummy mythology type stuff with a little Indiana Jones. And it doesn't copy Indiana Jones. It just takes that type of movie and does its own thing with it. And then you get a little horror aspect mixed in there. You got some quirky humor. But they don't ever take the humor too far. Like, it's quirky and silly, but it doesn't go too far in this movie. Great cast, great action, just an awesome, big budgeted box office summer popcorn flick, man. It's very entertaining. It's super nostalgia for me. This The three movies on the top right here, The Mummy, Scorpion King, and The Mummy Returns. I was young when these movies came out. I saw this first Mummy movie like 5 or 6 times in the movie theater. I found it very entertaining. It's fun. So I guess I have a little nostalgia for it. But to me, script wise and story and pacing and acting and special effects and all that shit, it's easily the best movie on this list, everybody. So that was my ranking for the Mummy movie franchise, everybody. Remember, put your list down below in the comments so we can talk about it, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this ranking. I appreciate you watching, and I'll be catching you on the tube laters because I have spoken.